I'm Chad Evan Collins, and this is the Marketing on Demand show. I set out to answer the million-dollar question. What is the biggest needle mover in your business, and what drives people to buy faster than anything else? Through selling over $30 million of my own products and services and setting 2 Guinness World Records for ticket sales along the way, I discovered how to move the needle consistently and quickly. If you're a marketer, e-commerce seller, entrepreneur, or founder, join me as I reveal my exact strategies and see what today's smartest business leaders are doing right now to explode their sales. Do you want to learn how to boost your sales using these methods? Text the word DEMAND to 90851. That's DEMAND to 90851. Now, here's the show. Hey, it's Chad Evan Collins here, your host of the Marketing on Demand show, where I've boiled down online marketing into a simple formula that anyone can use. It's the combination of awareness-based marketing and response-based marketing paired with scourgency, that's scarcity plus urgency, that equals marketing on demand. I want to send you my marketing on demand method for free. Just visit marketingondemand.com or text the word method to 90851. Now, I want to bring in our guest for today's show. This is Matt Hagberg, and I guess we're going to be talking a lot about direct response marketing, which is a lot of fun. But Matt is a business strategy and marketing consultant with a background in business operations and marketing. In 2017, he began diving into e-commerce and paid online traffic more aggressively after he built his own e-commerce store to go from $0 to $100,000 per month in just 90 days. Based on his success, Matt now works with clients from small startups who have no experience with online marketing to big companies like ClickFunnels, Chick-fil-A franchisees, and projects with industry titans such as Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. Check out matthagberg.com for more information. And now I want to bring in my man, Matt. What's going on? Welcome to the Marketing on Demand show.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So, little backstory. At Funnel Hacking Live last year, on the doors to get into Funnel Hacking Live. So this is like the 2 Comma Club Plus area. Matt is one of the guards. He basically holds the doors to make sure that no one runs in, and we need to get there really early to have really good seats as close to the front. So over the course of the week, Matt and I and my team, we all got to talking and kind of stayed in touch through the months that have followed, and I couldn't wait to finally have him on the show. So thanks for that. And it was great. I loved having those early morning chats with you every day before Funnel Hacking Live.
Yeah, I think those chats are actually probably where most people get real gold from those things, is picking the brains of people who are really digging into certain areas of different markets.
Yeah, so we got to talking, and I quickly learned that Matt was one of the brainchilds behind a lot of the paid traffic that's been going on for ClickFunnels. And I think that anyone that's been paying attention, especially over the last, I would say 12 to 18 months, has really noticed an uptick in how much frequency we're seeing those ads. And before we dive, specifically into that, I want to know when did you discover for yourself that running paid traffic was powerful?
I dabbled in it. So I managed, operated, and owned brick and mortar companies prior to 2017. So I kind of dabbled in Facebook ads when it had first started, but the analytics and things weren't where they needed to be in order to make it really successful. Google was still the better play. So when really it came around 2016, 2017, when a friend of mine exposed me to the idea of e-commerce, to actually opening up stores online and things like that. And then when I saw the opportunity there and the potential for return, as well as the ability to more easily expose people to your marketing message through Facebook, through Instagram, through Snapchat, through all these different places, it just clicked for me. I was like, okay, I can get people to do what I want them to do more effectively through these methods online than I've been trying to do through having door-to-door sales teams, having doing television commercials, doing radio commercials. It just clicked for me. So I just kind of went all in on it, and it paid off.
And what was that first big win? Like you put in a certain amount of money and you saw results back almost immediately.
So what's funny is the way that I started my e-commerce journey in 2017, it was January 1st, 2017. I said, I'm going to do this as my New Year's resolution. My wife was like, okay, go do your hobby. That's fine. So what I did was I just decided I would dip my toe in, and I was like, you know what? I'll just stop going to Starbucks and I'll drink coffee from home, and I'll take that money and I'll put it in Facebook ads. And within the first week, I was just dropping, $10 to $25 a day in ads for e-commerce store. And I started seeing purchases. And the return on ad spend for that is anywhere from 2 to 5x, depending on, what I was selling at the time, things like that. So that gave me a lot of hope. And every dollar that came back in, I just poured it back into marketing, and it just created this huge snowball. But that first week of 2017 of just putting money into e-commerce, into products and marketing that I knew was going to work, and just seeing small returns just gave me hope of like, oh, if I put $10 in and I'm getting 25 to 30 back, let me see if I can put 1,000 in and see what happens there. And so again, it just snowballed, and in 90 days, I was able to turn that into 100,000 a month.
I can relate to that feeling, and I know a lot of people listening can relate to that. In 2012, we launched our YouTube channel, All About Lego, my daughter and I, right? Which led us into creating Brickfest Live, this event production company.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I earned money on Google AdSense for people running ads on our videos.
Yeah.
And Matt, I'm telling you, it was literally like 8 cents. And I remember looking on my phone and saying, we just made 8 cents. But we were loving what we were doing by putting the videos up, and we just so happened to make the 8 cents. But like you, the thought was, wow, if we made 8 cents, what would it take to make $8? If we made $8, what does it take to make $800? And then, we grew the channel to 12 million views and a bunch of subscribers, and now created the live events business. But that's, you scored some success for yourself, right? You started to get energized from it. At what point did you decide, all right, I've figured it out, I've honed it in for myself, let me try and start helping other businesses?
What was interesting is it actually started with just a group of friends. So the friend who introduced me to this in the end of 2016, his first launch was for Q4 2016, and he nailed it. So as I watched him do this, that's what motivated me to do it myself in 2017. And then a couple of months later, there were other friends in that same group that saw what he had done, and now had seen what I had done. So he and I started teaching them how to do these things as well. And that's actually how it started, of me teaching other people. And they did the same thing. They grew stores to 6 figures, to 5 and 6 figures a month. More people heard about it. They came and started asking questions, so we helped more people. We got to the point where there were probably over a dozen or so, maybe 2 dozen people we had helped to create e-commerce stores at least 5 figures a month. And it was just getting amazing. So that's when I actually took the step out. I had gone to some events. I'd gone to Funnel Hacking Live. I had done some different things, and then I thought, what are the big money people doing? And so that's when I got in touch with John over at ClickFunnels, who oversees all of the traffic and things like that, and is now the marketing VP. And it again was a snowball situation of just helping friends who wanted to learn, and then their friends who wanted to learn. And then it was like, okay, again, this could turn into something where I can actually teach people how to do this, and they can make success out of it. And now that's what I do for a living.
So those first other store owners that you were providing services to, were you doing that as a I just want to prove that my stuff can work on other stores? Or were you going right in and charging them right out of the gate?
Um, I didn't charge them, and it was a combination of I wanted to see if this could work on other stores, but also I'm just a nerd for knowledge, and so I was really just nerding out about it. It was so revolutionary to me, and it was slightly before the curve of all of the quote unquote Facebook gurus and all that kind of stuff. So we weren't oversaturated with people who knew how to do this stuff. So it was just fascinating to me. And really, every person that came to me became another case study of, okay, can we make this happen again? Can we make this work again? But yeah, for those first probably dozen or so, I didn't charge anyone because they was more of a, I just want to see how far this can go.
Now there are a bunch of folks that have these skills, right? I have the skill of I know how to run ads, I know how to run traffic. I do this for my own business. I get asked all the time about it, right? Uh,
Hmm.
Friends want me to help them. I'm getting referrals. I don't know how to charge for my own services. What would you tell the expert in their circle, right? Because everyone has a circle and everyone is an expert of a thing in their circle.
Yep.
They're the expert in their circle, and they're good at what they do. They don't know how to charge. They don't know how to start that conversation when someone becomes a referral for them, right?
Yeah.
They're not a friend looking for a handout. This is actually a referral that someone gives you. They're willing to pay. How how would you advise someone on landing that first client?
Yeah. There's a couple different ways you can do this, and I've had this conversation with some people. The first thing I would warn people is don't do a dollar per hour trade. Don't do that because then there's the potential that your client then wants to know you're spending 4 hours per day on their stuff to equal out to how much they're paying you. Don't do that. What you really want to do is you want to do it on a value base. So ideally what you would do is you would try to figure out the kind of revenue they're looking to make from your efforts and do some sort of percentage work or something like that and negotiate and things like that. I did that for a little while, but then I got tired of the negotiating. I'm very much a like straight to the point kind of person. So what I did was I started at kind of a low bear. I'm going to tell you guys the honest truth. I started just charging 500 bucks a month. And I just said, okay, 500 bucks a month. If you want me, come get me. So I got clients at 500 a month, and I said I'm just going to take five at 500 a month and see how this works. So I got five at 500 a month, and then more people kept coming to me, and that told me that my $500 a month needed to be more.
You have good value.
Exactly. So I said, okay, let's try 750. Let's try 1,000. So every time I would hit a max of five at a certain level, I would then raise the level and then raise it again and then raise it again, to the point I usually do about 10 clients at a time, just because I prefer to work with a few people and really dig into their business because I love the nuts and bolts of operations and how marketing works with it and everything. But that's how I did it. Was I just started low and maxed out my book of business at the low amount and then raised it to the next level and maxed it out at that. And I just kept going that way. And I feel like it's a safe way for people to do it. The only negative to that is if you get a client who wants $5,000 worth of work for $500, you may run into that situation. So be very clear on what you offer at your different levels. So that way, there's no confusion. Just be clear about what it is that you're going to do up front. If you need to have it in writing, but actually my rule of thumb is if I feel like I need it in writing with you, I don't want to work with you because I don't want to have to deal with all of that yuck of dealing with that. I had one client that happened with. I second guessed myself and I took them on anyway, and it was a horrible decision. And so I'm like, no, just trust your gut. If you feel like you need a contract with them, you probably shouldn't be working with them anyway.
That is a phenomenal advice for someone that is just wanting to get started charging for their services. Of course, as your business grows, things do get more complicated. And by more complicated, I also mean opportunities for you to make a lot more money for the services
Yep.
that you provide. So those complications and intricacies are absolutely worth the time and effort. I want to shift the conversation now back to what I talked about earlier in the intro, and that's like the marketing on demand framework. When we talk about marketing on demand, if you looked at it like a Venn diagram,
Mm-hmm.
one of the circles would be awareness-based marketing. The other circle would be response-based marketing. And then where those meet, where those overlap, is what I call marketing on demand. And there are certain types of marketing tactics that we could use to use direct response-based marketing to a warm audience that you've already kind of warmed up with your awareness. Um, I want to get a sense from you on when you're working with clients now, and you could pick, any client that you want. What do they? I mean, obviously, they want to see sales at the end of the
Sure.
day. They
Yeah.
want their ads to be ROI positive. So I'm curious. First, are you doing more awareness based marketing work, or do you specifically lean more toward direct response based advertising work?
Just because of who I've worked with, people tend to come to me for direct response a little more than awareness. However, there's always a crossover there that you can't avoid. And really, it depends on where your company's at, what they're trying to accomplish, things like that. So, for example, if you're a startup, let's say a startup e-commerce brand, it's very possible to go straight into direct response by selling your product because people out there want it. However, you're probably going to hit a plateau. You're going to hit a ceiling unless you focus also on attention. If you don't build that brand along the way, then eventually you're going to hit a plateau, and that plateau will eventually die off because no one's committed to you as a brand. They only saw a product, and unless you come up with another amazing product, they're never going to attach to you. You have to transition that into awareness, into a brand. So they always overlap. Then there's the other side where they're already selling some stuff and they've created somewhat of a an awareness and a brand, but they're needing to expand. And in that case, I like actually what I've learned a lot from Russell and working at ClickFunnels is um, the idea of making that awareness happen basically for free. So having things like sales funnels and things where you're getting that information, you're getting connections, you're getting emails, you're getting followers, whatever, but you're doing it in a way where they're giving you some sort of something back, preferably money, but who knows? And you're basically getting your awareness taken care of for free because your direct response is supporting it.
Yeah, and that's huge. And basically what you're talking about, it sounds like are self-liquidating offers where
Yeah.
we're putting something out there, product or service, an ebook download, what have you, where you're running ads, you're collecting data against those ads, and some people are making purchases, which pays for those ads.
Yeah.
Then you go back with a different offer to that warmed up audience that knows who you are, and that's where your profitability comes into play.
Yeah. And let's not forget on the e-commerce side, that still works too. You sell them something really small up front and just ask them to cover shipping, and you're getting their email address, potentially their phone number, you're getting their mailing address because you have to send it to them. For those who don't know, mailers are actually picking up in effectiveness because people in the generation that are buying stuff now aren't used to seeing mailers. So they'll see mailers now and they're a little more effective than they were 10, 15 years ago. You get all that data even on the e-commerce side from selling something really small just for shipping upfront. And then you can come back around and say, hey, do you want this big thing? You know us. We did a good job. Do you want this big thing from us? It works in e-commerce. It works all across the board.
When you're thinking about direct response marketing and the different advertising platforms that are available to us, right? These DIY platforms, whether it's Facebook or Google or you mentioned Snapchat, where are you seeing um, where are you seeing good results, based on a specific product? Because I know certain things will work better on YouTube, certain things will work better on Facebook, et cetera. Do you have like a product or service that you've worked on that stands out to you where you're like, wow, I'm surprised that we got traction on this platform once we
Yeah.
started putting ads on a secondary platform, where maybe Facebook was first and now you tried something on Google, or vice versa.
Yeah. Um, I'm kind of gonna kind of reverse that. So there's a lot of business services companies that I work with, financial services, things like that. And I'm actually surprised at how well ads work for them on Facebook. LinkedIn tends to be the place to go for services like that, which is a good place to go for those services and advertising for them. But I don't know why, but it always seems to still surprise me at how effective Facebook ads are working for things that are better suited for other platforms. And I guess it just goes to show that Facebook really does have an aggregate of a large community of very people. I think that's the more surprising thing to me than the other way around of I tried it on Facebook and went somewhere else. Um, but I will reinforce what you just said about every company, every service, every product has its own place on its own platform. TikTok is working for amazingly for people. And if you do it right, it can work really well for you too. But your creative has to be really spot on for TikTok. Same thing for Snapchat. And I think the good thing about Facebook is it's a little more forgiving with your creativity, while every other platform, you have to do it really well for who's on the platform, or else you're probably going to miss the mark.
Yeah, it must be an interesting conversation for you to have with clients, because there are so many options now to advertise. For a long time, it was like, all right, I've got Facebook and Google. Now with and and LinkedIn platform wasn't that great. Now you have LinkedIn, you have Snapchat, you have TikTok, and everybody wants to do everything, but you kind of have to rein them in and be like, okay,
Yeah.
listen, we have $1,000 to work with this month or $1,000 to work with this week. Let's be very strategic. Make sure we're doing what works. This is what's going to bring in, at least cover your ad spend. And then we can experiment a little bit over here until we're able to scale it up. Has there anything that has surprised you about these new platforms that are emerging here in, late 19 into 2020 when it comes to TikTok and Snapchat?
Um, I'm finding it surprising. Actually, I was having this conversation the other day. I watched Snapchat rise and fall, and they actually they hit a profit over the last quarter, which was kind of surprising. But um, and then watching TikTok and how they're maneuvering is interesting to me, because it feels like TikTok is learning from the mistakes of Snapchat in regard to how basically Zuckerberg stole Snapchat, all of Snapchat's ideas, and copied them over to Instagram. And even Instagram Reels is the Instagram version of TikTok. And in my opinion, I don't feel like it has taken the attention away from TikTok in the same way that doing Instagram stories took attention away from Snapchat. So that's been surprising me in how intelligent these business owners and these social media operators are approaching what they're doing, after watching a decade's worth of back and forth with these social media giants.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, each platform is going to speak to a different demographic. So depending on your product and service, you need to figure out what is going to work for you,
Yep.
because these newer platforms clearly have I would say majority a younger audience, but I will tell you right now, my audience for our events are moms with kids aged, 7 to 15. And I know a lot of moms right now that are on TikTok,
Yep.
producing TikTok content, and they're absorbing TikTok as an entertainment source.
Yeah.
And I imagine some e-com brands that are doing
Oh yes.
female-centric products are going to do really great on the platform.
Yeah, that's probably another thing that's surprising recently, is that you have, something new comes out, even Snapchat saw this too to some extent, but TikTok definitely, where something new came out, and rather than what happened with uh, MySpace and then Facebook and then Instagram, was it started young, and then as it became more and more popular, more and more older people started coming into it, and so younger people migrated out of it to something new. And it's kind of like the parents now are immediately following the kids into wherever they go.
Yeah.
So you saw kids go into TikTok, and literally within weeks, you saw all their parents right into TikTok too. And whether it was consumption or posting or whatever the case may be, that pace has slimmed down a lot versus what we saw with MySpace and Facebook and Instagram and everything. So that's also something to pay attention to. Don't just dismiss um, something new because you think it's only young people. That's less and less the case, as in this generation, moms especially, but and some dads are wanting to kind of be in the pop culture with their kids. So they're jumping in almost as quickly as the kids are.
For sure. When it comes to lead gen specific activities,
Mhm.
is there a specific platform that you favor over another? Like, for instance, would you run lead gen on TikTok?
No, I feel like e-commerce or events are probably the two best things in TikTok. Lead
Yes.
gen, I would probably I would go the Facebook slash Instagram and like LinkedIn route. I wouldn't even do YouTube for leads. I would do YouTube as like as a deeper lead, as like a registration for something bigger, like a webinar or something. If it's just a simple lead, I'd probably stick with like LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram.
So how long have you been doing work now for ClickFunnels?
Oh man, 2 years, 2.5 years.
And
Yeah,
and I imagine that, of course, you bring your expertise, right? This is why it's a good match, right?
sure.
But but you also learn some things along the way. You have that behind the scenes feel
Yes.
already. What's one big takeaway that you can share that maybe someone else might not know behind the scenes about what ClickFunnels is even doing in their paid traffic that they could take away and implement in their business?
Um, I'll do two because it's the two that I see the most.
Yep.
Number one, and you could actually learn a lot from this from Dean Graziosi, but number one is the people are convinced that the function of the ad platform is more important than it actually is. When the creative that you make for the platform is actually probably the most important piece. You need to know who your audience is for targeting and that kind of stuff. But even if you have the right video speaking to the right person and telling them what it is that you can offer them, you could throw it up on Facebook with no targeting and it would find who you're looking for, and then the Facebook algorithm would then snowball it.
Yeah, I love it.
If your creative is right, you'll find the people. Like, the platforms are smart enough to find the people on almost every platform now because everyone's competing with how smart Facebook is. And then the second one is, a lot of people forgot what marketing, the philosophies and the psychology behind marketing when online marketing became a thing. They thought they could just slap something up and something would happen. And it's like, no, there's a psychology behind why people take action for certain things. All of the last couple of probably centuries of marketing information should all be applied to what you're doing in online marketing. And that's why I love working with Russell, is because he actually took all of that information throughout his years of being a marketing nerd. And so um, I kind of get access to that and behind the scenes and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm listening to 70, 80 years of marketing whenever we have a conversation, and being able to apply that to online ads. And it makes the ad go further, and it helps for conversions on once they get to whatever website you're trying to drive them to.
I love it. I've got 3 questions here that I want to ask you about. I'm going to pull out my handy flashcards. So we'll start with this one,
Okay.
Matt. Name a cool tool, app, or extension that you're using right now.
Ah, man, a cool one. I'm gonna change cool with reliable, because
Let's
for
go.
me, because we advertise on so many different platforms, it helps to have things like Facebook Pixel Helper, Google Pixel Helper, like all those little plugins. You often underestimate how valuable they are, but usually once a week we'll go in and review all of our tracking, and the best way to do that is to have all those little Chrome extensions and everything plugged in, so that way I know that I'm tracking you through Facebook, Google, Pinterest, LinkedIn. Like, Name a platform, and there's probably a Google Chrome plugin for it. They're so reliable, and they make my life so much easier than trying to like figure out that everything's plugged in properly.
A follow-up question to that, because I love the pixel helpers also. But when you go to another site and you notice that they don't have a pixel firing on that site, does it just like make your heart hurt for them? You're like, please, I just wish you had a pixel on your site so you could retarget people.
So this is, I think this is probably showing your level of empathy versus mine. So you felt sorry for them. I want to call them and say, hey, you
I
made
can
this
help
mistake, and I can help you.
Yeah. It boggles my mind sometimes that even some of the biggest brands in the world
Oh yeah.
aren't doing the tracking that they could, which would, as you know, lower their their cost of advertising and increase ROI.
Oh yeah.
We'll geek out on that another time, I'm sure. Name a book or podcast you love and why.
Oh man. Actually, so Russell got me onto this one, Business Wars. I love what's interesting, and not to get too
Is it a
political.
podcast?
Yeah, it's a podcast. Sorry.
Okay.
So Business Wars podcast. So I learned a lot about Donald Trump through the Business Wars podcast, because he was involved with NFL and all this kind of stuff back in the 80s. So some of the things people are saying now or realizing about him, I'm like, well, if you just listen to this podcast, you would have known that. But I'm going to back away from that conversation now. So, but no, seeing the back and forth, seeing the strategies and the different things that business owners have done, they take stories from the 1800s all the way through today. And the ideas that these people have that were giants in different industries over the last 2 centuries is just amazing. I get a lot of inspiration from that particular podcast.
Business Wars.
Business Wars. Yep.
All right. Finally, who is one person that inspires you?
One person that inspires me. Oh man. I'm actually gonna. This might seem like a cop out, but I'm actually gonna say my wife. So what's funny is when people meet us both, they realize, and they get to know us, they realize we're like the perfect pair because we complement each other. Like I am not. I pull it off really well, but I'm an introvert. I'm not very empathetic. There's a lot of things regarding personal relationships that I fail at, and she's really good at. So she helps me to be better in those areas. And it's definitely helped me to progress in my life, in my career, with my kids. So yeah, that's who I would say.
Nice. It sounds like our wives would get along and they might have some things in common.
Good.
Matt, how can people follow along? How can they get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch is either go to matthagberg.com, or just look me up on Instagram and DM me, at Matt Hagberg. Those are the two best ways to figure out what we have going on and to get in touch with me. I'm usually pretty good at responding via Instagram DM. So yeah.
I can attest to that. Actually, that's how we set this up. So for everyone that's listening, go check out marketingondemand.com. I want to send you my marketing on demand method for free. You can go there, or you could text the word method to 90851. Matt, thanks so much for taking the time today. And thanks everyone here for listening to the Marketing on Demand show. Hey, real quick, if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know by rating this podcast and leaving me an honest review. If you found this episode useful for your business, take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at chadcollins.me and use hashtag marketingondemand. That way, I'll be able to see it and repost it. I also created a guide of the top 40 ways people are using marketing on demand strategies and tactics in their businesses. And I want you to have it for free. Just text GUIDE, GUIDE, to 90851, and I'll get it right over to you on demand. Until next time, I'm Chad Evan Collins, and this has been the Marketing on Demand show.